Hi, how are you today? I'm Hugh Harris. Welcome to Dinkle Island, a place on the Chesapeake Bay. In my Dinkle Island series of novels, I've been writing these for a couple of years now, spent a long time writing the first one, and finally got around to publishing it. I'd like to invite you to visit with me there. Dinkle Island is a place not unlike other communities on the Chesapeake Bay, small towns. And we introduce you to it through Ed Haygood, who gets introduced to the town when he's assigned as the new Wesleyan Brethren pastor in town. Ed comes from Richmond and an associateship, so living in a small town and having a full-time church are new experiences for him. Ed settles in, he and his family, they get to know people. Ed encounters things that are pretty normal in the ministry, and he goes through all of the things that you do to get established, and he tries to find a way to establish his own unique contribution. And they hold a special program in town to try to reach out to others. They involve a parachute preacher of all things, and there's a lot of reactivity in town over that. There's also a lot of reactivity at the brunch bunch that meets after church to talk about the preacher and what he had to say and whatever else is going on. And one man in town who is a real antagonist for Ed. This man just does not trust city people to begin with, and he's a man with a lot of historic family power in town, and he has his own roost to rule. Well, he's an antagonist who gives Ed a lot of trouble. But things happen and things move along. It surfaces that there's somebody in town whose intentions maybe aren't too honorable. They can't quite figure that one out yet. Maybe it'll surface. Something else happens. One man, a key person, has a change of heart through a spiritual experience that really does change his entire life, his outlook, everything about him, and it's contagious to everyone in town. Now, he is a part of the movement that's really been going on all along through the influence of a stained glass window in that church about the return of the prodigal son and acceptance by his father when he repents. And that's what comes to play with some people in town. And in the long run, there's kind of a surprise ending. It's a good story. It's a lot of fun. It takes place back in 1983 to 85. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. Dinkle Island settles in and people get settled there. Ed stays a few years and moves on, has a whole career. And in 2011, Ed retires. He's now widowed. And he comes back to Dinkle Island and establishes a relationship, a friendship with Stan Grayson, an artist in town whom he has known ever since his first days there. He and Stan go fishing in Stan's boat. He has an old 1990 Grady White Gulfstream. It's in good shape, and it gets him all over the bay. He can get in the creeks and go out in the deep water. They go fishing. They don't have any success, but they're coming back, and they stop in Tranquility Bay, and lo and behold, they catch something. They can't figure it out. When they get it on board, it's an old, cruddy backpack filled with money, all kinds of money. This becomes a great subject on the community grapevine. Now, by this time in Dinkle Island, there's a group of people who have formed. They're older guys. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, these guys get together at the drugstore, and they talk about everything. There's nothing happens in town that misses their attention. They're called the Old Geezers by everybody in town, and they accept that title for themselves. It gets the Old Geezers' attention, and then there's Sarah Jones. Sarah used to be the head of the Women's Association at the Wesleyan Brethren Church until she got older and had ill health and had some other losses in her life, and she's now home most of the time, but very active on the telephone. She is queen of the grapevine, and so Sarah gets involved in what's this money all about. Meanwhile, there are some criminal activities that happen, some things that rock the community a little bit, and nobody can figure out what that's all about. Quite a bit of that happens in the story, and then there's another piece that goes back to 1989, right there on the bay and in Dinkle Island, something that happened that affected someone's life, someone whose life comes to play later. Then there's a time when a gospel music group comes to town, and one member of that gospel music group knows what that money in the backpack was all about. And that opens up the whole thing. And there's an ending of bliss, of completeness, a return of peace and a sense of wholeness. after the fragmentation all of this is brought about. Well, that's the way things have been in Dingle Island, where everybody knows everybody else and they all get together just fine in peace and harmony. Well, almost always. I hope you'll stop by your bookstore, Barnes & Noble, or Amazon, or write to or go online to tatepublishing.com and get a copy of these books. I think you'll enjoy them. I'll look forward to seeing you at Dingle Island.